This is my second video update coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus. And I did a very early morning video update on this Saturday before we got the news from Izyum, the withdrawal of Russian troops from Izyum. And I'm kind of publishing these updates back to back. But I decided to publish the first update because even though a lot of the analysis may seem outdated, given how quickly information is coming in and how quickly things progressed with regards to Izyum and the Russian military withdrawal. I still think that video had some good analysis and it made some good points, especially that article from Substack that I pretty much spent 50% of that video reading out. That article did make some good points with regards to everything that's happening in Kharkov and the special military operation in general. So I published that video. I kept it up and I'm publishing these videos back to back. And I think that morning video update, while a lot of the news has changed and the first scenario that I was talking about, the most unlikely scenario that I thought would happen, which is Ukraine takes Izyum, is actually the scenario that did happen. So even though that was the case, much of the first video, much of the morning video information is still good. I think there's still a lot of good stuff in there. And the story about Sarah Wagenhaupt, I believe, the German MP, and how she struck out at Robert Habeck. I think that alone makes for a good video. So with that being said, this is my post Izyum withdraw video, and I'm not going to get into the actual. I'm going to try to not get into the actual military details of what took place. I think we all know by now that the Russian forces, they had to make a very difficult decision. And in order to avoid encirclement in Izyum, they decided to retreat, to pull back. And now they're going to most likely prepare for their next moves, which I believe will be a counteroffensive. I'm not going to venture a guess at timelines or anything like that. We have a lot of reinforcements coming in, and I believe the Russians are going to mount a significant counteroffensive, and we'll see. We'll see what reinforcements Ukraine brings in and how everything shapes out. You know, I'll still recommend for everybody that really wants to get into the military and the geopolitical analysis, kind of those two things hand in hand, just watch Alexander's updates and just watch Brian at the New Atlas, watch his updates as well. And I think you'll get a really good picture as to how everything is going to shape up in Izyum. And we did a video on the Duran yesterday, which we caught a lot of flack for, which is odd because when you look back at that video today, when you look back at that video that we did yesterday, we were kind of spot on in our analysis. And Alexander, well, this is what he said with regards to Izyum. Let me just play it for you.
Everybody is focused on this offensive, this Ukrainian offensive in Kharkov. And one has to say a number of things about this. The first thing to say is that there's absolutely no doubt at all that the Russians have been caught, I won't say by surprise, because this thing has been building up for 2 weeks, but definitely disastrously unprepared. The key thing to understand about this offensive, this Ukrainian offensive, is that there were no Russian regular army troops in the area where the Ukrainians attacked. There were no regular Russian troops in Balaklia, this town that you were referring to. There don't seem to be any regular Russian army troops in any of these small villages and towns that we're hearing about. And that is actually extraordinary. That is very remarkable. And it does beg a lot of questions about why the Russian command allow that to happen. Because to be straightforward about this, this was an area where there'd been problems for the Russians before. And it's not as if, and this is, I want to make this very clear, it's not as if the Russians lack forces. They could have strengthened their positions around this area, but they didn't do so. The units that were located, the Russian units that were located in Balaklia itself, are not Russian regular army. They come from the Rosgvardia organization, which is a internal security force used. Its official title is the National Guard, but it's not like the U.S. National Guard, which also has a military role. It is essentially an internal security force. It's those troops are not trained to carry out ground fighting against a regular military, a regular army like the Ukrainian army. So the result is that the Ukrainians have been able to advance, occupy a large amount of territory, essentially without meeting any real opposition. And as you rightly say, they seem to be now moving towards trying to dislodge this Russian force in Izyum, which is this town, this important town that the Russians captured in March. Now, the big question, and this I think is the point that people need to understand, the Ukrainian forces that have been committed to this battle don't appear to be very large. The suggestion, the reports I've seen is that there are about 9,000 Ukrainian troops involved altogether. In theory, it should be possible for the Russians to send troops, regular army troops, to this area to bring this whole situation under control. The big question is whether they will do so in time, because you have to find troops, you have to assemble them, you have to deploy them. And also, and the other big question is that what the Russians are going to do? Are they going to strike back? Are they going to defend these locations? Or are they going to pull their troops out of Izyum? Now, that I don't yet know. But I'm going to suggest that there might be a reason why they might do the second. And that is that when the Russians captured Izyum in March, the universal expectation, and I'm no doubt at all the plan, was that the Russian forces in Izyum would march down and capture Slavyansk. And that hasn't happened. They've got bogged down instead in fighting in a forested area south of Izyum. They've never succeeded in advancing to Slavyansk. So there's a case, I suppose, a military case for saying that this military force in Izyum isn't achieving what it was expected to achieve. So given that that is so, pull it out. The psychological effect of doing that, however, would be tremendous. It would be a huge blow to Russian prestige and morale. And on balance, I don't think that is what the Russians are going to do. And we've been hearing reports now that over the last couple of hours, Russian troops are indeed, regular troops are indeed moving towards this area in some numbers and are now starting to take positions and are trying to reinforce positions. Now, it will probably take some time, a couple of days probably, before there are enough of them to make a significant difference. And it's highly likely that the Ukrainians will continue to make advances in the meantime.
So that was Alexander in commenting on two possible situations that could occur in Kharkov. And the first situation, the first scenario was that the Russians are going to bring reinforcements and they're going to fight for Izyum. And I think that is what the Russians did. They did bring in reinforcements, and they were about to fight for Izyum, but they realized that it wasn't going to work out. And instead of risking it and risking the lives of the soldiers, they opted for um, the second scenario, which Alexander talks about in the video that we did on the Duran yesterday, and that is to pull out of Izyum. This was the difficult decision to make. From the military side of things, it's not a difficult decision. I mean, it's not a critical decision to move out of Izyum, to fall back to better defensive lines, and then to prepare for your next moves. But as Alexander rightly noted, the psychological, the morale hit that Russia is going to take from this decision, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. And going back to my morning video, where I talk about the fact that when Ukraine retakes territory that Russia has taken, you have the whole question about how civilians are going to be treated by Ukraine. And we are getting news that the Ukraine military and the secret services that have retaken territory that Russians had taken, they are trying to figure out the right words. They are looking for collaborators, and they are punishing them accordingly. And there are some pretty horrific stories that are floating around. It's hard to confirm if these stories are genuine, but they paint a picture of people, civilians who are punished for working with the Russian military, for helping the Russian military, or just for lack of a better word, just accepting the Russian presence there, instead of resisting. And those people are being punished. And so you have that situation thrown in there as well, which is going to affect Russians in Russia. They don't want to see Russian-speaking people in Ukraine punished by the Zelensky regime as Russia withdraws from areas, even though from a military standpoint it's the correct thing to do and it's the smart thing to do. Still, the people in Russia, they don't want to see this. They don't want to see these people left there to the Zelensky regime and what they're going to do to them. And then you have the Russian speakers in Ukraine who are currently living under Russian control, under Russian administration. And there's that psychological factor for them in that, they're going to start to question, should I work with the Russians? This happened in Izyum, or this happened in Balakleya. Could this happen here where I am in Kherson or wherever in I don't know, Donetsk, whatever it is? Should I be careful if I'm a Russian-speaking Ukrainian in these areas, and the Russians are now administering these areas? Do I need to be careful as to how I interact with the Russians, because I don't want this happening to me? What's going to happen to the people in Izyum? So you have all of that stuff to think about, and that's going to affect people's psychology. And you already see that the referendum in Zaporozhye and Kherson has been pushed back, and the Zelensky regime, they're going to say, the collective West, they're going to say it's pushed back because the people now in this area, they're afraid to vote, and they don't want to vote to join the Russian Federation. And the Russian side of things is going to say, well, we pushed it back. It has nothing to do with the military situation. We're pushing it back for other administrative reasons or for other reasons. I personally think they're pushing it back to November, because that's when the Russians expect to have all of Donbass liberated by October. They expect to have all of Donbass under Russian control, and I think they want to get referendums for all of Donbass, Lugansk, Donetsk, Kherson, Zaporozhye, all of it. But that's just my thoughts on it. Either way, this is a big morale and psychological hit for Russia. And it is a big morale and psychological boost for Ukraine, for the Ukraine military. They have mounted a successful counteroffensive. It's tactical. It's a successful tactical counteroffensive, and I believe that it's going to be short-lived. But still, they did it, and they haven't had a successful counteroffensive since 2015. So they finally pulled one off. Yes, they had a lot of help from NATO, most likely a lot of help from from NATO, but nevertheless, they did it, and it's going to be a morale boost. And more importantly, for the Zelensky regime, it means more money and more weapons. And you saw Blinken coming into Kiev with 2.2 billion. And even though a lot of that money is not going to go to Ukraine, still, it's 2.2 billion for the Ukraine project for NATO, so that NATO can continue to fight the war against Russia. You had Annalena Baerbock. She also made a surprise visit to Kiev. The reports are saying that she didn't fly in. She actually came in via train from Poland, and she came in with an entire entourage, and she was in Ukraine to show Germany's support for Ukraine. In other words, she's doubling down on the statements she made during that TV interview last week, where she said, I don't care what the German public thinks or how they see things or if they're getting fatigued. We're with Ukraine. And that was the message that she brought to the Zelensky regime. Let me see if I have a quote here. She ended up in Kiev. She stated that the trip is meant to demonstrate that Berlin is set to continue supporting Kiev for as long as necessary. Speaking soon after her arrival, the official explained that her visit is meant to signify that the German government will continue standing by Ukraine as long as is necessary with the delivery of weapons, with humanitarian and financial support. She reassured Ukrainians that they can count on Berlin. The diplomat also pointed out that Germany would not let itself grow weary of supporting the Eastern European nation, despite Russian President Vladimir Putin's supposed plan to split our society with lies and blackmail with energy supplies. Baerbock went on to argue that Ukrainian troops are fighting not only for their life, for the life of their families and their friends, but also our European peace order. You see, she's doubling, tripling down on Ukraine, on her statements that she made last week. She's signaling what I feel a lot of NATO countries and EU countries are going to be saying in the next week, which is, look, people of Germany, people of France, of, I don't know, Czech Republic, I know you're weary, I know you're tired, I know you're fatigued, I know you don't want to pay 2,000 euros for your electric bill, but just hold on a little longer, stand by Ukraine a little longer. You see, it's giving results, it's paying dividends. All the money and all the sacrifice that we've made over the past six months, it's actually delivering results now. Look at what happened in Kharkov. So just stick it out with us a little bit longer. Let's give Ukraine more money, more weapons. Please don't protest. Please don't get out on the streets. Let's stay unified a little bit longer, and you will see that Ukraine is going to defeat Russia. Just take a look at what happened in Kharkov and Izyum. That's this message that Baerbock has delivered to Kiev is going to be the template of the messages that you're going to see from all NATO EU countries. So that was another win that this Kharkov counteroffensive, this Izyum withdrawal, has delivered to the collective West and to the Zelensky regime. In other words, more weapons, more money, and the war is going to be extended. And the fact that the fact that Blinken just strolls into Kiev, the fact that Baerbock just takes a train from Poland right into Kiev, it strengthens that narrative that Russia has not, for some reason, and I'm sure there's many reasons that we all can throw out there, but Russia has decided to leave the transportation, the supply lines from Poland to the east, relatively untouched. From Poland to the front lines, they've decided to leave everything untouched. And they've allowed the weapons to arrive to the front lines. Of course, you could say that they're doing this because, it's easier to destroy all these weapons in Donbass rather than to go all the way west and destroy these weapons and stuff like that. But still, you have that question. Everything has been untouched to allow all of these NATO weapons to funnel in, and look at the results in Kharkov. That's the argument. Look at what happened in Kharkov. And you're going to see a lot more weapons, a lot more money, and the conflict extended. And finally, this is going to hit, Putin's approval a bit, I imagine. I imagine this is going to hit Putin's approval because they did take their eye off the ball. I really do believe that. I could be wrong, and I know there's a lot of talk about the Russian Ministry of Defense. They must have seen what was going on. Everyone knew that something was going to happen in Kharkov. And come on, the Russian government, the Russian administration, they must have seen everything that was going on. It's crazy to believe that they didn't see 9, 10, 15, 20,000 troops getting ready for some sort of assault on Kharkov. Maybe that's the case, but I just can't get it out of my head that the leadership was in the Far East and they were taking part in the Vostok 2022 War Games and the Eastern Economic Forum, and this happened. The timing of the two, for me, it just doesn't sit well. It signals that the leadership was far away from what happened, and that's not a good thing. It doesn't look good. It signals that there must have been some sort of easing in preparedness. When you're 5 time zones away or 4 time zones away, whatever it is, and something's going on in Kharkov in Ukraine, and you're all the way in the Far East, and it just doesn't sit with me too well, and it signals that. They did take their eye off the ball, and this happened, and NATO capitalized on this. I believe that NATO and the collective West, this is my final thought, and I'll wrap up the video. I believe that NATO and the collective West, they timed everything perfectly. They timed this counteroffensive to coincide with the Ramstein air base meeting of NATO allies. They timed this so that Blinken can go to Kiev and bring more money. And more importantly, they timed this counteroffensive to coincide with Russian leadership being in the Far East, being very, very far away from the action. They've done this before. The collective West is very good at doing these types of things. Remember the Sochi Olympics in 2014? In February 2014, all the Russian leadership was completely consumed with making sure that Russia hosted a successful Winter Olympic Games. And what happened in February 2014? The Maidan coup. Everything went down during that time period when the Russians were hyper-focused on Sochi and the Winter Olympics, and the leadership was hyper-focused on the Winter Olympics. The Maidan coup took place, was activated. So I think the timing shouldn't be just, this is just a coincidence, or, there's no way that the leadership was not aware of everything that's going on. I mean, these are human beings at the end of the day. These are people, and these are human beings, and, being far away from emergencies is being far away from emergencies. I mean, I don't know. That's how I see it. Anyway, I don't think I have anything more to add. Take a look at Brian's video at the New Atlas. Take a look at Alexander's videos as well as he analyzes this. He was spot on with Izyum. If you watched our Duran video yesterday, this withdrawal from Izyum would not be shocking or surprising. It was on the table. It was on the table, and it was an actual choice that the Russian military, that they had to make. I mean, it was one of the options. This was not some sort of surprise event, and this was not some sort of, oh my God, we have to get out of here right now, and we've just made this decision, spur of the moment. No, this was one of the options that they were kicking around, and it was a difficult decision because of the optics, and it just looks bad from a media, optics, PR, safety of civilians standpoint, all these things. The fact that it bolsters up Zelensky, more weapons, more money, all of these things, the morale. But at the end of the day, the right decision for the military was to remove those troops, save their lives, and prepare for the next move. And that's where Brian's New Atlas video comes in, where I think he explains everything perfectly as to what the next steps are going to be. So anyway, that's my update. I will leave it there. I don't have a clown world. Let me see if I have a clown world. I don't think I do, to be quite honest, because I just haven't really searched for a story, for a clown world story, and no one has sent me a clown world story, so I just don't have anything at this moment. So we'll leave it there. theduran.locals.com, ODYSEE, BitChute, Rumble, and Telegram. And I'm just trying to see, I just got an update right here where it says Kiev unilaterally refuses to take electricity from the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Just got this update right now. Okay, interesting. All right, that's the video, everybody. Check out Alexandra's channel, check out the Duran's channel, and that's it. Take care.